the Black Quarterback series on ESPN's TheUndefeated.com. Excellent work by you. So happy to have you here.
Great job.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Please tell me this. In your opinion, what is the state of the black quarterback in the NFL right now?
Well, Molly, it's never been better. I mean, we've never had a season in NFL history where you enter the season with a guy who's got the reigning MVP, Patrick Mahomes, another active black quarterback with an MVP award in Cam Newton. Then we talk about Russell Wilson, who, yeah, he was eclipsed by Jared Goff in terms of being the highest paid player in NFL history, but entering training camp, highest paid player in NFL history. Kyler Murray, #1 overall draft pick. But the real sea change that's occurred here, the real watershed moment is that it's not just that black quarterbacks are guys. What you have now is franchise elite passers. Look, Dak Prescott, we can talk all day about what he used to be, a quote-unquote game manager. Dak Prescott is no longer a game manager. He's a baller. Deshaun Watson, you talk about a guy, if Patrick Mahomes wasn't here, we'd be talking about Deshaun Watson being the next one as the great quarterback. There are so many guys now, and the thing is, it's not a situation where it's just one or two who can really stand out. The NFL is celebrating its 100th season. And in this 100th season, African-American quarterbacks have never been in a more powerful and prominent role throughout this league.
What occurs to me when you look at the names of starting African-American quarterbacks in the NFL now, that says progress to me is they represent a lot of different points on the spectrum of quality of quarterback. You know, the original name of the undefeated was going to be twice as hard because of the old saying. And so you would expect, not that we live in a post-racial world, far from it, but you would expect, if that were the case, that if you had black quarterbacks as the face of franchise, you'd see a couple of guys and they'd all be superstar caliber, or else how do they wind up in that position? But that's not what you see. Jameis Winston's no good. You know, Teddy Bridgewater's okay, but he's like a fill-in guy. Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL. Like you see the black quarterbacks populating every kind of point on the spectrum of quality. To me, that says something. Does it say anything to you?
Well, no, I think it does, because what you're talking about is that, yes, there are a lot of superstar black quarterbacks in the league, but there are also guys who maybe 15, 20 years ago, like Teddy Bridgewater, he had a horrific injury. He was a quality NFL starter. He's now on the path back because of the Drew Brees injury to try to prove that he can run a team again and run it successfully. But Jacoby Brissett, yes, Andrew Luck retired, but Jacoby Brissett, they didn't go out and bring in another guy to play over him. So while we have superstar black athletes, superstar black quarterbacks, we also have other guys on the spectrum. And what that's about is just the evolution of, okay, well, these guys can play. Like, there are franchise caliber elite guys, but there are other guys who can just play, and we're going to roll with them because you know what? They're good enough.
I'm certainly not trying to disagree with anything that you say, because you're right on the money, but I want to go to a bigger issue because I'm really interested in getting your perspective on this. For those of you who don't know, there was an individual by the name of Fritz Pollard. He was an All-American out of Brown University in 1920, the inaugural season of the National Football League. This guy was a black man who won a championship and had established himself as obviously an elite player. 13 years later, somebody by the name of George Preston Marshall was overseeing the Washington franchise. He was a well-known segregationist, and essentially he went about the business of banning black players from the National Football League under the guise of, excuse me, if you allow these guys to play, they're going to be some of their white counterparts that are fixated on hurting them. Somewhere along the way, the intellectual capacity of the black quarterback somehow, some way came into question, okay? Now we go fast forward to this day and age. Just a couple of weeks ago, we watched two 22-year-olds in Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson going up against one another. We know about Patrick Mahomes. We know about Deshaun Watson. We saw that Cam was the league MVP, etc. But to be 22 years of age and given that opportunity, right, from off the jump, to me is where the watershed kind of moment really comes into play. Like, wow, what's going on here that these guys have suddenly reached the point where they're willing to give that guy an opportunity from Jump Street? Based on your research, the conversations that you've had, the exceptional reporting that you do, and what you've done with this article, talk to me about where that change took place and where you think the confidence level elevated to a point where team owners and executives were willing to just disregard race altogether and finally give young brothers an opportunity.
Yeah, and brother, I love the fact that you went there because so much of the narrative, the false narrative, is that African Americans couldn't play the quarterback position because they weren't smart enough. They didn't have the leadership ability. And what we see now in the Kyler Murray-Lamar Jackson matchup, youngest matchup of African American quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era. Well, what happened was these teams just realized, okay, well, wait a minute, over the evolution, these guys actually really can do this. And the money got to be so great in the NFL that you can't afford to ignore someone who can help you win football games. And they're putting them out there younger and younger because if you make a mistake on a franchise quarterback, it sets your organization back. So you draft them now, you got to play them. And if you got to play them, if they're young, you need to throw them in there quickly and see, can they do it? And what has happened because of that is if you're black and you're young and we take you in the first round, we're doing the same thing as if you're white and you're young and we're taking the first round. You're getting out there to play because if you can't play, I need to find out right away because if you can't play, I'm losing my job.
I know we got to go to commercial. The only thing I want to say about that is that the exception would be Steve Keim for the Arizona Cardinals.
Well,
who picked the franchise quarterback and a head coach.
Well, you got time to talk about that
both
one?
of them after 1 year.
I want to mention something back about coaches and quarterbacks.
And one note I want to mention, research got me 4 of the top 5 quarterbacks in terms of QBR, arguably the most comprehensive stat, all black quarterbacks.
Yep, that's true.
And you guys also mentioned Fritz Pollard, Stephen A. Fritz Pollard Alliance also does excellent work.
Phenomenal
as
work.
well. I have the pleasure of hosting one of their
events. By the way,
events.
3 black coaches. 0 owners. Still a long way to go, but we'll continue.
Yeah.
0 team presidents.
That's right. 0 team presidents.
We're not done with you, and we are not done with this conversation. We'll have much more on this topic after the break, including where Colin Kaepernick is. How we doing?
I'm doing great. Y'all look good in there. I actually had a mean face on because I know I'm about to hear a bad man and he is that dude. I know I'm about to hear all of that crazy stuff.
I know you better watch your manners, man. Don't be sitting there speaking for me before I speak.
What's going on, big fella?
Shoot.
He was in a bad mood till I sent him that
you
facial
looking
recognition video from Twitter.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for being the bright spot on this show.
Marcus, you were in a bad mood till I texted you that thing from Twitter where the woman was trying to get the man's facial recognition.
That's unbelievable. That is
unbelievable. That brightened up your day.
We all, hey, listen, Marcus, we all know she don't even need to open the phone after he put forth that effort. He already guilty. He's already guilty.
Everything she thinks and more.
Everything she thinks and absolutely.
She doesn't need the facial recognition.
She don't need the facial recognition.
A guilty conscience needs no accuser.
He was in the Matrix. He was bending back like
it really was.
Like
Seriously.
Neo.
He did look like Neo.
By the way,
not an exaggeration.
Can I just say one thing? I just learned, I didn't know people really do that to each other. Like why they sleep, they turn on the lights and get facial recognition.
I had no idea.
And they take their thumbs when they're sleeping. Like I didn't know this was a real thing.
You're saying that right. Right, as though that hasn't happened with you.
No, I don't need to do that.
I know wifey don't do it.
I don't even know that people do that.
Listen, there's only one hope the guy has before we move on. There's only one hope. Eddie Murphy, stand up, years ago. Right? I don't know if it was delirious or something, but he went like this. Wasn't me.
Right.
And he went like this. Hey!
There was a song about it, but we should probably get this.
That's his only hope.
Shaggy?
That's his only hope.
Oh, my God.
Let's go.
All right,
Let's go.
Right. Stephen, I'll start with you. Should Rodgers feel more or less pressure? With the team being on the hot start, they're 3-0, but the offense is actually struggling.
He has to feel more pressure, and here's the reason why it's necessary. He's on pace to have his worst completion percentage of his career right now. Last year was at 62%. This year is at 61%. Okay, he threw for over 4,400 yards, 25 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. All right, finished with a quarterback rating of 97 last year, and that was like low for him. This year is worse. They are undefeated, and it's primarily because they have the number 2 ranked defense in the entire NFL. As an offense, Aaron Rodgers is completing 61% of his passes. As an offense, they're ranked 23rd in points, 28th in yards. Their passing attack with Aaron Rodgers is ranked 27th. Their leading receiver right now is Devontae Adams. Obviously, he doesn't even have 200 yards in 3 games. So when you look at it from that perspective, the bottom line is you have to couple that with the fact that Mike McCarthy is no longer there, primarily because of his relationship with Aaron Rodgers having gone sour, primarily because he got blamed for some of the dissipation in Aaron Rodgers' performance that we witnessed. Well, now you've got LaFleur, And here you are winning football games,
Oui, oui.
all right? Winning football games. I'm sorry. If your defense is showing up and they're performing, and we're directly able to point to the offense as the Achilles heel for the Green Bay Packers, that's all on the shoulders of Aaron Rodgers. No way around it.
I actually think there's less pressure.